You say I'm number one, but you were out almost 24/7. I had to say goodbye, 'cause I see you didn't have a clue. And everything you said and done was only always just about you. Someone who tells the truth. See, I'm still waiting on a promise, 'cause I found this love is just about you.
The fact is, there really is only one race, isn't it?
We live in a world that has many races. We can't get away from that.
Because you can see what they're doing for the people who came here from the Caribbean and built this country up to what it is today. They're sending them home.
When they want to keep any information on you, they are able to keep it. When they want to lose it, they can lose it in a heartbeat, if it suits their purposes.
As a white mother of a black child, I have to, because I find it hard trying to raise a black man in this society.
I find it an honour, but do you know what I have? I have, unfortunately, and I'm ashamed of it. I have one over you because my voice is louder than yours when I'm speaking to white people. When I'm speaking to white people about the way that they're discriminating against my son because of his colour.
Hi, my name's Claudette, and I make jewellery for Jamela Gems. I make jewellery using semi-precious stones and sterling silver. You can find Jamela Gems on Facebook, Etsy, and Twitter. Come and look me up. Jamela Gems. I make jewellery with your well-being in mind.
Hi, my name is Beverly Skeet, and guess what? I've been making good use of the lockdown time. I've made an album, it's called Liberty, and this is the first single from it, Can't Do Right for Doing Wrong. It's been a long time coming, and I've been looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. It'll be released on the 31st of August. I hope you like it. Take care. Bye. Be safe.
Lead singers from the West End stage.
I got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I got
Outstanding voices and exceptional choreography. sensation.
Look now.
The mind-blowing Mo Soul Sensation.
It's a good evening from me, Samantha Scott. How's everyone this evening? There's a few people in the room tonight already. Lovely to see you all. I just want to quickly say what the topic is today, and that is, has Christianity been used to oppress Black people? Now, I'm going to go straight into it today. And I have a co-host today, but I'll introduce you to him a bit later on. Not too long. But so my understanding is that the beginning of racialized slavery started in 1619. And it was a Dutch ship that brought a ship of Black people or Black slaves to Jamestown, Virginia. There was slavery before this. At least probably about 100 years before that. However, the English Americas discovered Africans were very strong, able to withstand the robust treatment that they would give them, and they were able to also withstand all types of weather. And so this was, when they discovered that, this was the beginning, I believe, of the Black slave trade. And just to go into that just a bit further, I'm going to play this for you. Bear with me, please.
What is new about the 1619 Africans is that this is the beginning of a particular racialized slavery and what becomes English North America. For the 1619 Africans, what happens here is, I think there's a realization that, here we have a permanent labor force at our disposal. We don't have to release them after 4 to 7 years like they did the indentured servants. And in a labor-starved colony like Jamestown, I think people like and Piercy and other landholders see this as an opportunity. They don't necessarily speak the same language. The Africans they don't share the similar cultural context. They have no home country of England to appeal to for rights, to make claims of citizenship. And phenotypically, they look differently. They're easily marked out as a distinct labor class. And we see this in the labor categories of the early colony, where they're described as Negroes or servants not Christians, which was another way to describe them, to differentiate them in the records. So we have this combination of class and race coming together to create caste, a dynamic that presumes a permanent inferior group of people. And this is where we get the development of racial slavery. This is why Jamestown is so important for North American history. It's not that slavery was new, right? But it's this particular form of racial slavery that develops in what becomes America, that creates that racial caste system and ideologies of white supremacy and Black inferiority that continued over these 246 years of slavery and beyond. So the interesting dynamic of all of this, the result of all of this, is that by 1860, on the eve of the Civil War, America has 4 million enslaved people.
Okay, so we know that that's when slavery started, but the question today is, was Christianity used to oppress Black people? I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce you to my co-host today. You've seen him on here before, and he's well known, so you may know him anyway. His name is Lindsay Resker. How you doing, Lindsay? Oh, you've got to unmute yourself.
Got to unmute myself. I am
That's
very,
right.
very well. It's lovely to be here. This is my favourite moment on a Thursday. I always look forward to doing this. Lovely to see
Brilliant. You. Lovely to see you too, Lindsay. Always a pleasure. I don't know. Do you know anything about Christianity and slavery at all?
I am so glad you've asked me on this program. I am the least religious person in the world. I'm really looking forward to speaking to all of the guests. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in religion. So I'm really looking forward to what people have got to say. Do I think it's oppressed Black people? I really don't think it has. I think it's served an amazing purpose, and I think it's given a lot of people a lot of strength. So I'm not sure it's oppressed people.
Okay, Lindsay. Right, so because I've done a little bit of research, okay, and I'm just going to quickly take this opportunity to let you realize, because the answer is that yes, it has been used to oppress Black people, but I'm going to show you how. So,
Okay.
Initially, I would say, how do I say this? Okay, when Christianity came to America, there was a standard tradition in the English culture that said a Christian cannot hold a fellow believer in bondage. Okay, so those people who were the English colonists who created the slave systems, they were Christians. And they had a bit of a dilemma on their hands simply because they needed to find a way around that English traditional culture, as it were. And so, in doing so, they went back to the Bible to theologically find a way to make it work and interpret it in their own way to make it work. And so, therefore, they went to things like Genesis and identified Ham as the children of the blacks, and they claimed that the children of the blacks' destiny was to become servants. And another example, they then said, look at Abraham, he was the father of faith, and God still blessed him, and he had servants. And they used things like they quoted Paul, the apostle, and they said things like, servants, obey your masters. All these things are in the Bible, but they interpreted it in the way that it could be used to then bring in the law in 1667. They brought the law in. If a slave became a Christian, he still remained a slave.
I mean, I'm sure white Christians have always oppressed Black people. I mean, the Ku Klux Klan believe themselves to be Christians, and obviously they've oppressed Black people. But surely Christianity within the Black churches, as practiced by Black people within Black churches, surely that's not an oppressive environment. Surely that's a very loving, a very supportive environment. Surely Christianity has been good.
It is now, but where it's coming from, or not, sorry, I shouldn't say where it's coming from the slavery days, they made a slave Bible and they took out certain things. And those things that I was just explaining to you, they put them in and interpreted it in the way so that Black people thought that their purpose was to be a servant. And that's how they controlled the mind, if you like, along, but now it's different. And the other thing is, it's funny because I said where it's coming from. It's funny because a lot of people think that Christianity is a white man's religion, and actually it's not. It's African/Asian. But do you know what? I would say this is a good place to bring in someone like Pastor Dawkins. And he can tell me whether I've got it right or whether I've got it wrong. And Pastor Dawkins, you'll need to turn down your Facebook.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. So, Pastor Dawkins, I've been saying bits and pieces of what my understanding is. And I know that you've been watching the show on Facebook Live.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a bit of a lag on there, so I'm not sure what you've heard from what you've not heard. But the question today is, has Christianity been used to enslave or to oppress, Black people?
The straight answer is yes. You've already said it, unequivocally so. As a member of the clergy, it's a disgrace. It's a travesty. And it was interesting listening to Lindsay. Good evening to you, Lindsay. The opinions that people have broadly follow what you think. There's this, it can't have done, it's impossible, it's not, but it has. And my journey is an interesting one, because I stood for the majority of my life on a Pan-Africanist platform. I've had two really defining moments in my life. The first one was as an 18-year-old going to Kensington Town Hall to listen to Dr. Ivan Van Sertima speak about the role of Egypt in civilization. And I listened to Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, who said he was a part-time Egyptologist, which kind of made me laugh, because I'm thinking, how do you study Egyptology part-time? And he stood before me talking about how my African ancestors were involved with things like eye surgery, dentistry, setting bones with splints, penicillin. I was taught in schools that Louis Pasteur discovered penicillin, and there is documented factual evidence. Well, I say documented factual evidence. There's evidence of penicillin being used by Egyptians who are African. Somehow I became very angry when I finished the seminar. I realized there's this notion that Egypt is a part of the Middle East, but it's Africa.
It is Africa, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It is,
but
yeah.
even as a black man growing up in this country, somehow Egypt was like Greece and Turkey, and that was my concept of it. So when he stood before me and told me facts, which are absolute facts, you go to the British Library, the British Library will corroborate what I'm saying. I became very angry. That was, I was 18 at the time, I'm 54 now. So my formative years, I became very angry. I wanted to change my name. I had a slave name, which is actually a truth. You watch Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee. You want to fight the power. I joined the All African People's Revolutionary Party, looking to free Mother Africa under scientific socialism. And before joining this organization, before the seminar, I didn't believe in God anyway. I pretty much was like yourself, Lindsay. I just didn't believe in God. I thought religion was just foolishness. But when I came from that seminar, I became very anti-religious, but particularly Christianity, because it was unequivocally used. All the things, I missed some of the things that you said, Samantha, because my phone rang and I was listening. It's kind of a weird setup here.
It's okay. I mean, I was just basically saying, initially Christianity came when it came to America. There was this tradition in the English culture that said a Christian cannot hold a fellow believer bondage, and because of that, the people who were English colonists who created the slave systems, they were Christian, and that caused them a bit of a dilemma, and they needed to find a way around that. So they went to things like Genesis, and well, more a quick one like Paul the apostle, and saying, obey your masters, and stuff
all
like
of
that.
those things.
Yeah. So and then they created the slave Bible, and
absolutely
that's what the slaves saw. They didn't see the whole Bible.
Yes.
Can I ask the pastor a question?
Of course you can.
Of course.
Would you say in general that Christianity has done more bad than good?
Absolutely, that's not correct. The Christianity has done way more good than bad. I think the thing is before I became a Christian when I was nearly 33 years of age. So I got married 23 years ago, and I'm still happily married to this day. And when I proposed to my wife, she said to me, right, we're going to get married in church. I said, you can forget that one. I'm not getting married in no white man religion, no white man Bible, none of them foolishness. That's not happening to me. I gave in the end because, the wedding is more about the bride than it is about the groom. And I acquiesced in that sense. But I got married. I had custom African attire, which I wore. I got married like an African prince. She wore a traditional white dress, which annoyed me. I wanted her to wear an African outfit, but that's what she wanted to do. And again, you acquiesce to the ladies, more of the bride's day. But I did not want to get married in church because I knew what they had done to my ancestors. I knew that they continued to perpetrate a lie. And obviously, it was hard for me to reconcile the two. You know, my wife grew up in church and she wanted to get married in church and she loved the Lord, you know, and I'm like, nah, that's the white man religion. The Bible's been changed. All of that, every argument that I think every Black person has used to discount the Bible, discount Christianity, I've used them all. And I was very eloquent in my ability to do so. What happened with me to become a Christian was that God came into my front room and spoke to me with an audible voice.
Pastor Dawkins, because we've got some people in the waiting room.
Sure.
I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm going to ask you to be concise.
Sure.
If you can, because it's quite a large question.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to try bringing on Devon Morgan. The question is, where did Christianity start from? Well, I believe I know, but I said it a bit earlier on when you probably didn't hear. But where do you believe Christianity started from?
Christianity as a religion started after Christ died on the cross, rose from the grave, and he then he issued some instructions to his apostles to go to the upper.
I posed a question wrong. I'm sorry. Where I'm trying to get to is, I believe that Christianity started as an African/Asian religion. Most people today think it's a white man's religion.
And the reason why they think that's because that's how it's been perpetrated. Every image of Jesus is white. All the apostles were white. And even when they've taken him away from being white, they've taken away the blonde hair and the blue eyes. They have made him brown-haired and brown-eyed with European features.
Okay, so you concur that it started as an African-Asian religion?
I don't say it started as an African religion, because when you read the book of Genesis, God had a plan and he lived out the plan through people. I believe that there is something significant about where he began the plan, but that significance isn't based on color. It isn't based on male or female.
It's not.
But I do think it is. There is. You know, why did God choose Abraham? He chose him because he just did. He's God. He can do what he likes. Why did he choose the descendants of Abraham to start Judaism? He just chose a race of people. And God is a colorless God, and the spreading of the gospel was designed to go to the whole world. The message is for the whole world, regardless of color, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of gender. It's a world movement to bring in the kingdom of God. It's not really a religion. It's to bring in the kingdom of God.
Okay, thank you very much, Pastor Dawkins. I'm going to go to Devon Morgan. Hi, Devon.
Hi, Samantha.
Hi. I have the same question to you, which I've just asked Pastor Dawkins. Where do you believe Christianity started from, and do you believe it was used to oppress Black people? And we're going to try and keep the answers concise here.
Where did Christianity start? I think the Ethiopian version of it is older than the Western one, but my main issue is I don't really think that is an important issue. It does oppress Black people, and it's not a past tense, it's a present tense. It still does. And unfortunately, we are the only, well, I don't know if we're the only people, but I think the perpetrator knows that it's suppressing us based on certain actions that they have taken in recent times. And other people understand that it oppresses us because they understand psychology. For example, the Chinese who resisted the Bible into their country for centuries, they finally allow it in. And now they control it very tightly, and the communist government runs it. So they have, for example, there's a documentary where they're showing you the Catholic Church. And when you pan and you see the imagery in there, Mary is Chinese and baby Jesus is Chinese. So the Chinese understand that it's the psychological damage it will do to you if you worship an image that doesn't look like you. And the simple answer to that, what does it do? It makes you inferior. As one of our scholars said it, if the image you worship doesn't look like you, you will become the servant of the people that the image looks like. So this is not, and then, but when you speak to most Black people, it's, oh, the color doesn't matter. And we are the only one who don't get it. And then we wonder why is it we go around trying to not being Black. And I think that in spite of what went down with slavery, if we didn't have this religion in play, we would have progressed a lot further on.
Okay. All right. So do you think that that might play a part to do with why some Black people bleach their skin then?
Absolutely. Because your greatest ideal, you can't think of a greater ideal as a role model than your concept of God. And therefore, the way the subconscious mind works, it will take, especially if you don't resist the image, because Black people thinking, I don't really care whether the image is whatever. So you're not giving even your subconscious permission to reject that image. So it's going to take it on board. And then it says, well, God chose to look like white people, so therefore they must be better than I am. Plus, they are the ones who run in the world at the moment. So we have all the reference in the world to see ourselves as less than, because we lost our history. And in general, Christianity and religion in general is bad for the human race, but it's worse for Black people.
Okay. Lindsay, do you have any questions?
No. It's fascinating to hear this. I mean, obviously, I'm not a religious person. I don't go to church. I don't believe in God. So, so it's very interesting to hear this. I mean, the perception is, for somebody like me, the perception is that church has been an amazing bringer together of communities. It's provided a lot of help and guidance and strength and an amazing community spirit for a lot of people. So that's my perception of church.
Okay. All right. Ruth, we're going to speak with you, but before we do, could you please turn your Facebook down? Lindsay, do you have, I think I'm going to leave you to speak with Ruth for a second.
Ruthie, turn your microphone on. You need to unmute yourself.
Yes, it was stuck. Yeah, I'm losing a bit of connection.
Okay. How would you respond to what Pastor Dawkins has said and Devon Morgan has said?
Maybe a bit in between. I have real issues with some of the teachers. I grew up in church. My dad was a pastor, and I've asked questions over the years because I'm well read and I believe that I know it sounds pretty trite when people say I'm spiritual, but I what's the word, sleep on things and it comes to me. So I don't make up my mind just because somebody says that's what it is. And I grew up in church and I question things because it depends. It's not so much the Old Testament as opposed to the New Testament that I have an issue with, because I find that people tend to take bits that they want and just generally of the Bible anyway, they take bits and then they throw out the rest, the things that aren't convenient. So
just to answer the question, Ruthie, I mean, do you feel that Christianity has been used to oppress Black people?
Of course, absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
How has that manifested itself?
Well, first of all, in bringing it, the whole point of the papal system was to go to countries, and I believe that it wasn't an accident that they went to certain places to bring the gospel and to kill anybody who wouldn't take it on. And I believe that it's not an accident. And I'm trying to collect myself before I say things that might offend people. I just believe that I'm trying to think of how to put it. I just know that there was an agenda to go and take certain people who I believe are true, are maybe you would call it true Israelites, and to make them into slaves. Because one thing is that rather than having the Bible as this good thing where it's all supernatural. It's very natural. It should be very natural. Everything should be very natural. It should be very. It should be a way of life, a way of thinking. It should not be.
Basically saying it should be innate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Ruth. We're going to go to Charlotte Johnson. I will see you back in a moment. I'm going to put you back in the waiting room, okay? Bear with me. And here we go, Charlotte. How are you?
I'm very well. Let me take this opportunity to say good evening and to thank you for inviting me onto this program.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here. I want to go direct and ask you, Charlotte Johnson, as a Christian, do you believe that Christianity was used to oppress Black people? And do you think that is still going on to this day?
I would say I fully support what Pastor Kevin said about how Christianity came about. I believe, and it's been said before, that Christianity, particularly because of slavery, was used to subdue and to control predominantly Black people, most definitely. And it's still happening today. But the question is a powerful one, but there are no simple answers to it. I say that because the oppression that we're experiencing now has been compounded by the years of when you look at America, for example, you had the freedom of slaves, then you had Jim Crow, then you had equality. But look what's happening in America, which is also replicated in this country as well. So they're still there. And while I'm going to talk about the Windrush generation, we have more control because we have our own churches as well as the established churches, but there's still oppression going on. And that's because over the years, as descendants of former slaves, we have incorporated some of the psychological damage that's still perpetrating. So when Ruth talks about her childhood growing up in the Christian church and asking questions, it's all combined in that. So it's quite a complex area. But it definitely is still happening. But I suppose what I'd like to do is the flip. So yes, Christianity has oppressed Black people, but also it's given Black people an opportunity to have hope and to have faith and to overcome so many inhuman challenges, even to this day in the 21st century.
Charlotte, can I ask you a question, please?
You may.
You talk about the situation in America, and obviously there's this tyrannical American president who seems to march to his own drum. He's not even following the rules of the Constitution. What has that got to do with Christianity? I mean, the president describes himself as a Christian, but he clearly isn't.
So that's a very complex question. That's why it's such a good question. But when you look at Christianity, you cannot divorce politics and you cannot divorce economics. So when you think about slavery, Black people was enslaved because they were economical resource to whites. And if you look at the American system and how they have built up their legislation, who controls it, it's former slave owners. So that's a simple, quick answer to your question.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. That I want to leave it there. That's a very good place to stop. Thank you very much for being concise. I'm going to put you back in the waiting room. Bear with me for a moment whilst I bring on the person who chose this topic. So bear with me. Lindsay, that was a very good question you posed there.
Thank you.
Exceptionally good question you posed there. While we're talking, I'm just going to get Trevor to turn down his Facebook page sound so that we can
Sam,
see.
just following on from Charlotte's excellent answer, I just wonder if the oppression in America is Christianity or racism. I mean, or is it Christianity under the guise of racism, or racism under the guise of Christianity? It's just kind of a wolf in sheep's clothing.
I think that's a question for someone like Pastor Dawkins. So I'm not going to try to answer that one, but what I am going to do is I'm going to go to Trevor and I'm going to ask him. Well, I'm not going to ask him, to be honest, because to be fair, this was Trevor's topic. Trevor chose this topic, and it's a very good topic to have. Trevor, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Sam. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Would you, first of all, let me know why you chose this topic and what you think about this topic?
Actually, if I'm honest with you, I don't want to take credit for it. Actually, my wife chose it, but I mean, I was thinking. I mean, I was on the.
That is a good move, Trevor. Big up the wife. That is a good move.
Yeah. We were discussing it, and I came up with several other topics around that thing, and then she said, "Why don't you go with that one?" Because neither of us are believers, and both of us believe that Christianity has oppressed that people and have kept them down. I mean, there is a saying, I don't know who coined the saying, it said that when the Europeans came to Africa, they had the Bible and we had the land. And by the time they left, we had the Bible and they had the land. And I believe that to be so true. I agree with a lot of what Devon said. You know, I feel that as soon as I was born, it almost seemed as though as soon as I came out the womb, I went to church. That's all I remember. It was like every Sunday, every Wednesday, because I went to a church school. And then I was the opposite to the pastor. I used to go to church, and then one day I a bit like him, I suppose, I did some reading, and I thought, hang on a minute, a lot of this doesn't make sense. And like what Devon said, I think if you're born and you're seeing somebody as almighty as God himself, I say himself, you can never reach that. And if you see him as a white person, then you're always going to be struggling to get to a certain level. And I find that if you go to deprived areas, impoverished areas, you always find 1, a liquor store, 2, church, and some sort of gambling establishment. And I think all those things together, they know, I mean, it's all those things together keeps us down. I mean, you mentioned the date, I think it was 1667, but I know in 1660, Charles II of England ordered a council of foreign plantations to devise strategies for converting enslaved Africans to Christianity. And if they said they didn't want to, they were either beaten or put to death. And so we've been going through that. And I think we've got this thing, what they call cognitive dissonance, where you tell us something, we know it to be true, but the belief is so strong that we just can't leave it behind. I mean, I was watching a documentary the other day and they were interviewing this poor black lady. She was on crack. And the guy asked her, you know, you go to church? She said, yes. He goes, do you pray when you go to church? You know, to help you with your addiction? She said, yes, I do. He goes, do you think it's working? She said, well, it's not working at the moment, but I keep going. So he said to her, if I was to offer you the chance to clean yourself up, that is no more addictions, and to move forward in life, would you give up the church? And she said, no. And you see, I hear things like that, it makes me think, well, yes, it's so deep in our psyche. And I just feel we can't, you know, it keeps us down. It really does. I heard a bell. Does that mean my 3 minutes are up?
No, it doesn't. Please continue. That's just people entering into the room.
All right, sorry. All right. And I think what churches do is they perpetuate a dependency. So, you know, don't worry about it. God will provide. And you find was it in America, there's something like 85,000 black churches, you know, and in, 1980, the church made something like $420 billion. We don't seem to have any of that.
So, Trevor, what I'm going to do, I've just got everybody back into the room. And for about 5 minutes, I'm just going to unmute everybody, ask everybody to unmute yourselves. And we're all going to have a bit of a talk before we go to the commercial break. Because I'm sure there's people who's going to want to ask Pastor Dawkins some questions. I'm sure there's going to be, people who's going to want to ask maybe Devon some questions. And I'm going to throw this to you, Lindsay, and I'm going to get you to start this good old debate off.
I mean, we're here with learned people. We're here with people of the cloth, and they're saying that Christianity has oppressed Black people, and Christianity plays an enormous part in their life. If Christianity oppresses Black people, why be part of Christianity?
Lindsay, just stop there for 1 second, because I've just looked at Facebook. There's a lot going on. I do want to say a quick hello to Rona Faye Stacey, Di Green Eyes, Barry Thomas, Georgia Allen, Beverly Brown, Azzy Smith, Donald Gamble. It's been a while. Karen Sears Miles, how you doing, darling? Terry Jones. And Brother Charles, how are you? Denise Dice, Shorty Eve Brims, Lewis Mastermind, Everine, Rex Mason, Stefan Bean, Jordan Bailey, Kevin Leo, Trisha Perara, Rudy Liquid. There's so many of you to say hello to. Trisha Perara is saying, not sure if most people think it is a white man's religion. Maybe in the Western world, UK, US, other countries may not agree. Well said, Pastor Dawkins. So I will be reading out some more Facebook things, comments, but Lindsay, you summarised that so well, and then I saw Facebook and jumped in there.
I'm just very, very interested to hear what how the panel feel. If Christianity is oppressing Black people, why perpetuate it? Why continue with the Christian faith?
Well, let me answer that question if I may. I'm reading some of the comments on Facebook, and every comment that I read, which is opposed to Christianity, that's exactly what I used to say. Absolutely. I've read the books. I've read the history, how religion came out of Egypt. I've read all of those books. I stood on the Pan-Africanist platform, and I was vociferous in my defense of Africa and my anti-Christian stance. But here I sit on this show wearing a clerical collar, having a deep relationship with Christ. And I still stand on a pro-Black, Black Lives Matter, call it whatever. I still stand on that platform. I am fighting the cause of Black people within the Christian faith. My ancestors, though my parents came on the Windrush generation, many Windrush Christians, they came as Christians, they went to church and they were told, we don't want you. You're Black, we don't want you in our church. So that's why a lot of Black churches started. The thing is this, I'm 54 years of age and I have been in this struggle for my African ancestry for 40 years. And I've been on both sides of the argument. And I now understand the power of Christianity. I now understand the truth of Christianity. I now understand how the balance can be redressed through Christianity. Jesus said this, he says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Mm-hmm. When I heard that before, I used to say, you're just chatting nonsense, fam. Mm-hmm. But now I know it's true. Yeah. And so now, and there's absolutely no way, as Charlotte said it so wonderfully earlier on, there's no way in an hour and a half show can we even begin. We can't even take the lid off the surface of what we want to talk about. This is going to take debates upon debates.
It does, doesn't it? It absolutely does. What I can say is that when you have experienced and you have felt the power of the Holy Spirit move through you, it's undeniable. It's undeniable.
So Sam, I was a total unbeliever. You heard my story earlier on. My wife, after we got married, my wife went back to church and that just got on my nerves. I was still in Night Moves. I was still in Oasis. I was still in Shanolas. And my wife is going to church on a Sunday. That just used to get me and get on my nerves. And then one Sunday, while she's gone to church, I'm sat in my front room eating a bowl of cereal in my pajamas, and God came into my living room and he spoke to me with an audible voice and says, go to church. And I knew which God it was, because he didn't tell me to go to the mosque, the temple, the Gurdwara, or the synagogue. He told me to go to church.
Pastor Dawkins,
as a complete unbeliever, I knew that was God.
But Pastor Dawkins, you're saying that Christianity still oppresses black people.
No, okay, so now this is where we now progress the argument, because what I did at the beginning of the show was to answer the question directly. I did that, Charlotte did that. So now we can move forward from that position. What I remember years ago, and the best way I can explain is this: I would remember years ago in the Simba project in Shepherd's Bush, we would come together as the AAPRP and we would have these meetings and we would talk about how we're going to mobilize the youth, how we're going to go into university campus, etc., etc. And we'd be talking some deep things, talking about Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Ture, and talking some deep political things. And there was this one brother in that meeting. Every 2 weeks, he'd be there saying, it's Jesus. We need Jesus. The answer is Jesus. And I wanted to slap that man, because I'm thinking, we're trying to be political. We're trying to be intellectual. We're trying to reason out the realities of oppression by the European people. And you're telling me we need Jesus, it's Jesus. And I thought, fam, shut up. But when I became a Christian, I suddenly realized, my God, this man was right. He was right. So now part of my platform is to redress the balance, because I am a black man who has lived through the Brixton uprisings, the Toxteth uprisings, and St. Paul's uprisings. I've lived through the Broadwater Farm uprising. And you notice I don't call them riots. I call them uprising because that's what they were. We rose up against our economic oppressors. And the way that Christianity has been used has been to enslave us, but it's not Christianity. The core, this is what Jesus said it simply. He said this. He says, the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. So what people have done is they've used the letter of the law, the word of God, to oppress, but he says the spirit gives life. So what I have when I sit here is I don't have just the letter, I have the spirit of the word. And because I have the spirit of the word, I can stand on a platform which says we need to fight tyranny. But the tyranny that I'm talking about now is evil. The tyranny that I'm talking about is wickedness.
Pastor Dawkins, I am sorry to interject, because I could listen to each and every one of you, to be honest, quite long.
Same here.
I really could, but we haven't got that long. So I'm just looking on Facebook, and it's Rudy Liquid is saying, the stories of the Bible can be found on the walls of Egypt. I am going to come to Devon here. And let me see. Beverly Brown is saying, Mr. Morgan, I like the way you have put forward your argument. Hello, Heather Hayward, by the way, and hello, Carmen Bolin. Sue De Silva is saying, Malcolm X said Christianity is a white man's religion. The Holy Bible in the white man's hand, and his interpretations of it have the greatest single ideological weapon for enslaving millions of non-white human beings. Hello, Harold Appiah. I am going to come to you, Devon.
Okay, you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, for a start, one of our greatest scholars to do with religion was the late Dr. Yusuf Ben Buchanan. And he has said that Africans didn't have a religion. We had spirituality. And most of us in our time don't understand the distinction between spirituality and religion. We don't. What we call spirituality, and let me give the distinction. For a start, the Africans didn't have any book purported to come from a divine being, giving them instruction as to what they should or shouldn't do. They makes no claim to speak to any god or anything like that. They had spiritual concepts that were co-opted and borrowed to form what becomes religion. So religion is like the commercialization of spirituality. Spirituality in its essence is that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So it's not strange for us to say we have this spiritual whatever. And then we can attach that spiritual feeling to be Islam, Christian, it doesn't matter where we attach it, it will stick, because we are the ones with the power. right? It's not external. So spirituality says you are a spiritual being. Mind, you could say mental spiritual being. So our mind shape our entire world, unlike other life forms like animals, right? So we are in charge of shaping our entire world. So what religion has done in general, and Christianity in particular, because Christianity is particularly egregious because it introduced an imagery. While the other religion, you can't point that at them to say, oh, they give you a sense of what God looked like. So that makes it worse than all of the religion, because no matter what we say, that psychology is killing Black people spiritually. Just like how it kills women spiritually, because it creates a dynamic where it's a man's world. Religion is the cornerstone of sexism. It is why women are oppressed, because the Bible tells them to. There is scriptures in the Bible that says women should not speak. She must be silent.
Yeah.
So you have all of these things. And plus, as I said, if God is a man, and one of the things that Dr. Ben says, he literally says, Africans were not stupid enough to think that God is a man. We believe in God and goddess. We invented the concept of duality, and the Europeans didn't understand any of that. So now they've given us this version of things called a religion. We had spiritual concept to do with it. It attaches to nature, and it makes us realize how powerful we were and are, because we are human beings, and we use that spirituality to shape our world on a daily basis for good or bad or indifferent. So if we can get the distinction between the two things, and we then can have a sense of what is what. But if we believe that the
Devin,
word...
can I just quickly ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because from what you are saying, and you have made some valid points, but from what you are saying, I have to ask you, where do you believe that we come from?
Nobody knows. Nobody has the answer to that, because there was never any...
Okay, Pastor Dawkins, if you have the answer, then could you answer that, because that's the question that I'm asking.
Okay, can I just finish?
I think the thing is this: everything Devon has said, I have elucidated for years. Everything, absolutely everything that you said, Devon. I have stood on platforms. I have witnessed to people, told them you have been brainwashed, you've been this, you've been that. I did all of that, and I did it as eloquently as you did. Now I sit here wearing a clerical collar, praising Jesus Christ, because I have your perspective.
So, Pastor Dawkins, what's the answer?
The answer is that God, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Sorry,
okay.
Can I just butt in? It
said,
of
course.
Yes, but it said but it said also let us make man, not let me, not let you.
That's correct. Elohim,
so,
plural designation, because God made us spirit, soul, and body, tripart, and God is tripart: Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Tripart.
No female.
Well.
No, because God is genderless.
But
yeah, but why? So why do we say he? I mean, this is the thing: is that we have no concept of the greatness of any greatness, because we try to put it into a human context.
That's right.
Very true. But I used to say exactly what you said, my dear sister. I said exactly the same thing, but now I have an understanding.
Yeah, well, I have an understanding. It's just not yours.
And I have no problem with that, because for 33 years of my life, I did not believe. And I argued I would have argued on the same platform as Devon. And they argue with. So when I speak to people who do not believe in what I believe in, I fully understand why they don't, because that was me. So I now have a different perspective.
It depends what you mean by belief.
Can I just interrupt a second? I think what Ruth is trying to ask here is, what exactly is it that you believe? But I think that's quite clear. He's a pastor, Ruth.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that I believe in if you want to call it the Most High. You see, I don't try to put a label on what that is, because I can only go by what I feel in my soul, I suppose is what you would say. And when people try to box it into something, then I have an issue with it. And the other thing is as well, where somebody says Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. If you go back to texts before a certain century, if you go back to the Aramaic version of the books, there was no Trinity in how we consider it.
Okay, we are going to the commercial break soon. That's number one. So because we are, I'm just going to quickly go back to Facebook. When we come back, it will just be myself and Lindsay. We're going to have a little talk because there's another topic or two that I want to bring in. And then I will see you all back on the other side. But before we do that, Sue De Silva is saying, inspiring testimony, Pastor Dawkins. Beverly Brown is saying, in my finest Jamaican accent, go on, Pastor Dawkins. Let me see. Hello, Kate. And hello, Miss Cock Patterson. Miss Cock Patterson is saying, here, here, Devon. Hello, Ian Woods. Let's just quickly see. There's some, just a quick message to Facebook. If your messages are really long, I can't read them. Okay, so try and make it concise, please. Let's just quickly see. Denise Dice is saying, agree 100%, Ruth. And Kevin Leo is saying, thank you, Devon. Interesting. Okay, so at this time and moment, I mean, it is very difficult it's extremely difficult to have these discussions in such a short time.
Sam, I'm sorry, we have to do a part 2. I'm sorry.
I think we may have to, Mr. Wesker. You're absolutely right. I think so.
It's too good a subject. It's too good.
Absolutely. And I think we may even run over tonight. But for now, we are going to the commercial break, and I will see you all back on the other side. Okay? Bear with me one moment. The fact is, there really is only one race, isn't it?
We live in a world that has many races. We can't get away from that.
Because you can see what they're doing for the people who came here from the Caribbean and built this country up to what it is today. They're sending them home.
When they want to keep any information on you, they are able to keep it. When they want to lose it, they can lose it in a heartbeat if it suits their purposes.
As a white mother of a black child, I have to, because I find it hard trying to raise a black man in this society.
I find it an honour. But do you know what I have, unfortunately, and I'm ashamed of it, I have one over you because my voice is louder than yours when I'm speaking to white people. When I'm speaking to white people about the way that they're discriminating against my son because of his colour.
Hi, my name's Claudette and I make jewellery for Jamela Gems. I make jewellery using semi-precious stones and sterling silver. You can find Jamela Gems on Facebook, Etsy and Twitter. Come and look me up. Jamela Gems. I make jewellery with your well-being in mind.
Hi, my name is Beverly Skeet, and guess what? I've been making good use of the lockdown time. I've made an album, it's called Liberty, and this is the first single from it, Can't Do Right for Doing Wrong. It's been a long time coming, and I've been looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. It'll be released on the 31st of August. I hope you like it. Take care. Bye. Be safe. But you know me so well. Get inside my share. Give me all
singers from the West End stage.
I got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I got the
Outstanding voices and exceptional choreography.
Stop in the name of love before you break my heart. Stop in the name of love. Ain't no stopping us now.
Mo Soul Sensation.
Moving, grooving, moving, grooving.
Book now. The mind-blowing Mo Soul Sensation.
Okay, and we are back after the break. So that was quite interesting. And we haven't nowhere near, I don't believe, even touched the surface of what it was that we were speaking about. And we are going to probably continue to speak about that. But before I do, I just want to have a quick word with our lovely Lindsay Wesker. Bear with me whilst I just do something here. I am controlling some things here, so bear with me. Okay, so Lindsay, I would
Yes,
love you to
Samantha.
unmute your mic. Thank you. The thing is first of all, we had a bit of an interesting week.
Yeah, we definitely had a very interesting week. Can I just before we start on this, Sam? Can I just a tell you how much I love you, and B, tell you how much I love this forum. This forum is a wonderful place where people can discuss and disagree, and it really doesn't matter. There's no personal insult, and you've created a wonderful space where people can talk about really very, very deep, very serious, very controversial subjects. And at the end of the discussion, we're still all Sam's friends, and we live to fight another day.
Lindsay, I'm really happy to hear you say that, because that was my intention. My father, he grew me up to. He basically said to me, you can say anything you want to say, absolutely anything you want to say. It's how you say it at the end of the day. And you should be able to discuss and disagree without calling each other names and things like that. I mean, I went onto someone's Facebook today, and that person was trying to open up discussion about hydroxychloroquine, which is something that people are recommending may work for COVID-19. It's been used to cure people in Africa of malaria and things like that. Now, I'm not saying that it does or it doesn't, but this person was simply just trying to bring about discussion, and he got abused, is what I would call it. But then, Lindsay, that brings me round to you, because equally on your page this week, I would say that you got abused, but not only you, the people who agreed with your opinion got abused. And this is coming round to the Wiley subject. And before anybody says that we are being anti-Semitic or anything silly like that, Lindsay is Jewish. Aren't you, Lindsay?
I am. I mean, it's so ironic. I'm here talking about Christianity, and I spent the whole of my week arguing with Jews.
Do you want to just tell us a bit what you were saying?
Basically, Wiley has had a lockdown moment. I'm sure he regrets a lot of the things that he said.
He has apologized. He has
apologized. He is backtracking. He's had a lockdown moment, and he said a lot of things that I'm sure he regrets. He's used incredibly extreme language.
Absolutely, and I have to say, I don't condone his tone, how we went about things. It was between him and his manager, and really that's where it should have stayed. But
Definitely.
yeah.
But, you know, people coming down so heavy on Wiley, if you're going to come down heavy on Wiley, you've got to come down heavy on all of the violent racists on social media who just spout just the most vile racist filth all day long. You know, people, high profile black people like Diane Abbott and David Lammy and Dawn Butler and Ian Wright and Stan Collymore and Wilfred Zaha, you know, they get racist abuse all day long on social media, and these accounts are still up and running. You know, Wiley has now had his Twitter account deleted, and these violent racists, you know, are still out there spouting their rubbish, and nobody's saying anything about them.
I mean, if I said something like, you know, it's people like Resident Rump, you know, they get away with things all day long.
He has been stirring racial hatred and just divisiveness throughout his presidency, and he is completely free to do that all day, every day. Nobody says a word to him.
I mean, we had our prime minister saying things like, you know, in regards to the Muslim people, you know, letterboxes and things like that. And, you know, I mean, it's just kind of looked over. It's not made such a big thing about, is it?
You know, it's hypocritical. It's double standards to come down so heavy on Wiley and not deal with all the racists in social media. Absolutely ridiculous. So, you know, I've spent most of my week arguing with Jews simply because I was defending Wiley. Well, not necessarily defending Wiley, but just sort of saying, if you're going to attack Wiley, you've got to deal with the violent racists on social media as well.
Yeah, and you made some good references. I mean, real good references. Can you remember anything that you said in your rant?
My week has been a blur. Break it open to the panel.
Well, I can quickly go to your page for a very, very quick second. One second, Lindsay. While I am doing that, I'm going to throw this open to everybody. I'm going to unmute everybody also, or ask you to unmute yourselves, more like it. And I'm going to throw this open to everyone whilst I find what you were saying, Lindsay. Now, we can, by the way, continue to discuss what we were discussing, or we can move on to this, the anti-Semitism, or we can discuss both, but we haven't got long.
Wow.
I know, it is a wow.
Wow.
Pastor Dawkins, I'm going to come to you, simply just because you said wow.
You're going to come to me?
Yes.
The challenge that we have as a black race is that we have been oppressed. I'm a Christian, and Christianity has also been oppressed. So the reality is black people are not going anywhere, and Christianity is not going anywhere. So as a black man, I am unequivocally a Christian. So I'm now fighting on both fronts. And what I realize is that there are different people with different faiths, different beliefs, some who have no beliefs, but we have a common cause. When a police officer stops you in your car and tasers you or does anything barbaric to you, he's not asking you, are you a Christian? Are you Muslim? Are you Hindi? He's just going to oppress you because you're black. So my son is a Christian and he drives a nice car. And I pray hard when he's out on the street. They're going to stop him because he's a black man in a nice car. They're not going to say, oh, you're a Christian, let me let you go. So we all have a common enemy. And I think that what we got to do is find a way, find a dialogue where we can say, all right, then you don't believe what I believe. I don't believe what you believe, but we have a common goal. How can we work together to bring about an end to tyranny? Because this is what it is. It's tyranny. And the thing is, the interesting thing is this: this tyranny is oppressing. It is brainwashing everyone. Michael Holding said it brilliantly. If you watch the Michael Holding interview, he's talking about education. But we're being oppressed. Everyone's being oppressed. Anyone that doesn't have it is being oppressed by those who have it. And they're trying to keep everyone who doesn't have it down, whether you're black, white, male, female. Christianity is not the continued source of evil in this world. Evil is the source of evil in this world.
I think what really incensed people on my page was that I just sort of said that I didn't think you could compare racism with anti-Semitism. I just felt that
that's right. And then you gave some very good points, and I've got it right here.
It's like comparing yams to mozzas. You know, it's like Jews can pass as white, so their experience is completely different. So comparing racism to anti-Semitism, it's just nonsense. It's just, they're up in arms, but they have no idea really, what oppression looks like.
Sure.
I need to just quickly go back to Facebook here. Where is it? Sorry, bear with me. I'm just looking for one particular one that I just saw. Okay. So Beverly Brown is saying that is because anti-Semitism has found its way into the halls of law, whereupon anything said against Jews can be described as illegal if it isn't glorifying them and therefore punishable by law. Where is it? Rudy Liquid is saying, excellent, Kevin, the divide and rule methods used. And Barry Thomas is saying, great debate, guys. I wouldn't mind hearing from you, Mr. Devon Morgan. We got cut off the last time because we had to go to the commercial breaks. So we are either continuing to speak about the Christianity, or we can go over to the anti-Semitite.
I want to continue.
Semitic, sorry.
I want to continue with make a point to do with Christianity.
No problem.
Okay, so Christianity Christianity, since we're talking about that, I don't have to mention any other religions. So it has a track record of probably killing more people than any other institution in the history of man. It has a long track record of lots of dead bodies run through it, especially when they did all that when they went and did the Crusades and all of that. So we have a situation where we have different religion. So in reality, we don't believe in this idea that there is just one God is an illusionary argument, because people don't believe in the same God. So since people believe in different gods, if they believe in the same God, they could go and worship in the same building, and they don't. And in most instances, people don't get married, even if the difference is even a denomination. But the bottom line is that there is different God, and people have murdered each other for centuries over this concept of who is God. To try and I'd say, well, you must call God by his name or whatever. You have people get upset if you don't call him Jehovah. Say that's his name. So they want to say this is the real God. So the question is, if I ask any Christian person if the real God wants us to know that he exists, they would say yes, he does. And just the answer itself proved that situation to be false, because if God wanted us to say, I am the real God, we would need to believe, because it would become self-evident. Because God does things, hold on a minute, these people are murdering each other. I'm trying to identify who I am. One is saying I'm Allah, one is saying Jesus is the real thing. They're saying different things, but I know the truth. So I'm going to intercede here and make them know that I am the real God. Not going to talk to some individual and then ignore the 7 billion people on the planet. No, this God, if it worked the way we're saying it does, would present himself to the world and say, listen, I am the real God. All the other rest is made up, but no such thing has ever happened.
Okay,
and
Devon.
It rendered this thing that God wants us to know that he exists false. that is not the case.
Well, Devon, first and foremost, I mean, there is a thing called free will. And I don't believe God would want to force anybody to say this or that or do this or that. There's a thing called free will. Is that not right, Pastor Dawkins? I mean,
so how does that has to do with God letting us stop killing each other to try to say who he is? He wants us to stop. He wants us to know that, look, free will is to decide whether we're going to worship him or not. I believe, based on the Bible story, Adam and Eve had the same choice.
I'm talking in the sense of who you decide to call God, as in Allah or blah, blah, blah. There's a thing called free will. And if...
Well, sorry. Isn't free will to do with whether or not you decide to worship God or not? Isn't that the essential question? Because some people say, no, I don't believe, I'm not worshiping. Similar, Adam and Eve
okay. All right, let's go back to way back when. Way back when, initially, from my understanding, all over Africa, it was a Christian faith country, as far as I know, way back when. It didn't start with Constantine. Ruth is shaking her head. I'm just giving you my understanding. In 1054, Eastern Christianity and Western Christianity split. And this is when the Western Christianity became the dominant faith of Christianity. The rest of some of Africa was taken over by Islam. And all these different faiths, from my understanding, occurred. Pastor Dawkins, is that right or is that wrong?
To answer Devon's point, if I may,
okay.
He says, why doesn't God do it? Well, God already has, and God continues to do so. God has shown people all throughout the ages that he's God. God sent prophets to tell the people who he was, and they killed the prophets. And then God got fed up and said, you know what? I'm going to come myself and do it myself. I'm going to come in a human form, and I'm going to show the people who I am. And what did they do with him? They hung him on a cross. So he says, all right, I'm going to go back. I'm going to continue to use people. I'm going to continue to talk to people. Everything that you've asked for, Devon, God has been doing it. As Sister Samantha says, we have free will. So we can choose to ignore what we want to choose. God made us to worship. So that's why we have to worship something. God made us to believe. We have to believe in something. And the reality is that there's an enemy out there who hates God, and he is just trying to get us not to worship the true God. That's in its simplistic form. The devil, if there's a God, there's a devil.
I just tend to think, Pastor Dawkins, that people call God different names. And I, to be honest, call me right or wrong, I don't really see that there's anything wrong with that.
Well, if you look at the Ten Commandments, the first of the Ten Commandments, God says, you shall have no other gods except me. You shall not make for yourself a second commandment is not make for yourself a graven image, a carved image, or make yourself a god. And that is both physically in terms of worshiping certain things, or conceptual. You can't have a concept of God that suits you, which goes against the God. So God knows that we're going to make all sorts of gods, because the Bible calls the devil a deceiver. He's deceiving people, and people are believing what they want to believe because they have free will. And I had free will, and I exercised my free will, and then I exercised my free will to believe in God. And when I gave my life to Christ, I then did my research. I didn't go and sit in church and listen to the preacher and say I believe the preacher. I said I need to find out for myself, because for years I argued against it.
Again, Pastor Dawkins, for me, this is why I've got this platform, because I feel that it's important that people can respectfully agree to disagree. And so therefore, I also feel that people shouldn't be fighting and arguing over a name of the Most High, whoever they call him. If you see what I mean, but I am going to go. I don't want to overpower the show with yourself and Devon.
Yeah,
so therefore, I do want to go to Trevor, because I think he had something to say, and also Ruth had something to say, and that's not me saying that you're talking too much, Devon, or Pastor Dawkins. It's simply just a matter of saying
we need to give everybody a fair share here.
Does that mean Sam? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just something that Pastor Dawkins said when he said that, God sent the prophets beforehand and they killed them, and then he came himself as Jesus, and we ended up stringing him up on a cross. And we see, what I always find puzzling about Christianity is that I was always told that God is all knowing and all powerful. And so surely if God is all knowing, he would have known, sending these prophets, what was going to happen. He would have known, coming down as Jesus, that what was going to happen. Even going back to Adam and Eve, surely God would have known that they were going to eat the apple. I mean, it just seems to me that if you have this power, and let's be honest, if he's all powerful, he should be able to squash the devil like an ant. So the question, what I find puzzling is, why are we in this mess? He's all
Trevor,
powerful, and
if you look at it, Trevor, you've got your child.
Yeah.
They've done something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to stampede all over them?
What do you mean, am I going to stampede all over them? Sorry. Well, obviously, what I'm trying to say is, of course, you're going to punish them in where you see fit if they do something wrong, and try and teach them the right way to go. Yes. But I'm sure as hell ain't going to send my child out where I know that they might get murdered. If I know that my son leaves the house today, and I know that if he goes out today, someone's going to kill him, I'm not sending him anywhere. He's staying right home with me. And that's what I find puzzling. If you know this is going to happen, and you love your children more than we love our own, then it doesn't quite make sense to me that you would allow the atrocities. I mean, you have infants that come into the world, they've done nothing. Now, I know everybody defaults to the free will, but I look at it as a cop-out. I really do. I just think, 30,000 children die every day from starvation and disease. I mean, what's the reason for that? They've done nothing wrong. I mean, we could say it's free will, but to me, it seems a little bit, I don't use the word evil, but it's almost like it's a game. It's a game between, if there is a God and there is a devil, it's like a game between the two of them, like the book of Job, this game where you can do this and you can do that, but I bet any money he's going to come back to me. I mean, if you're all knowing and all powerful, you know everything and you stop everything and you create this utopia where everybody lives in harmony and love. I just find the whole thing crazy. I'm sorry.
Okay, Trevor, thank you very much. Rudy Liquid is, oh, by the way, I must just quickly say before I do anything else, Rudy Liquid has got quite a few shows. There's one in the mornings. I cannot remember the actual times. There's one in the mornings on certain days, and there's also one in the evenings on Monday at 8 o'clock. Rudy Liquid's got a chat show. It's quite interesting. So if there's anyone watching this right now, you might want to go and check him out. Rudy Liquid is saying the faith was never Christianity. Sue De Silva is saying Allah is an Arabic word for God. Rudy Liquid is saying in the Book of the Dead there are over 110 commandments, of which 10 was plucked for the Bible and the control of the Roman Empire. I did say that earlier on, Rudy, that we had the slave Bible. Mona Jacob is saying, we are just debating language here. Semantics should not be a problem. Whether we call it Christianity or spirituality, the substance of the matter remains. The scripture calls those who have Christ in them and behave in a Christ-like manner Christians. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, precious people. Angel PG is saying, how do you know what is written in a book isn't just the story as it's written by man? Does that mean every book written is fact? There is definitely a creator or higher being. Jordan Bailey is saying, Trevor, it could be something they did in a former life, if there is such a thing. And I'm not quite sure what you're referring to there, Jordan. Maybe someone on the panel can help me out there. And Beverly Brown is saying, my opinion will be too long to read. But in reference to the Wiley rant, it's not the content, but the lack of diplomacy and eloquence, is what Beverly Brown is saying. And there was something that Rudy wrote. He said, Black people are accused of anti-Semitism the moment we identify the Jew as an oppressor. Well, Rudy, let me tell you, it's not just black people. It's pretty much anybody who says anything in regards to Jews. It's not just black people. And that's what my observation is. Guys, we have been on here for an hour and a half already, and it really is time. It's that time where it looks like we're going to have to come to a close, and yet again we haven't got into it, the meat part with the knife and fork. And so therefore, Lindsay, I think you are right, we are going to have to do part 2. Lindsay, do you have anything that you want to say?
I mean, it's a quite exceptional group of guests on tonight's show.
Absolutely.
And if they can, I hope they'll join us again for another Thursday night.
Yep. Is there anything that Trevor, Ruth, or Charlotte would like to say before we come to a close?
I mean, I would just like to add, with regards to Jesus, I've read a book, believe it to be true, but they've said that there've been several, if not hundreds, of deities before him, which had the same passage, the life passage like him, i.e. the virgin birth, the crucifixion, and the rising from the dead. And for instance, Mithra, the Hindu one, I've got his name now. Anyway, Hindu god. They all had a similar passage of life like Jesus, and these were all pre-Jesus. So those is, again, that just adds to the confusion for me. It almost seems as though things were clubbed together to create this Jesus story, and that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, Ruth, I'm going to ask you a specific question. Charlotte, I am going to come to you. I saw you shaking your head vigorously when I said that Africa was first a Christian of Christian faith. Now, if I'm wrong in anything, I need to be corrected. So
no, I was shaking my head because the fact that you've labelled it Christianity. Christianity is a modern concept.
But no one would know what I was talking about otherwise.
Yeah, but that's what I was shaking my head for.
Okay.
Because I mean, it's just like when someone says, "Oh, God is everywhere," and if you want to give the term "God is everywhere," yes, everywhere includes in us. Yeah. So and those of us who allow things to go through you so that you have an awareness of.
But you know, Rex Mason is saying here, he's saying it's a story retold over thousands of years.
Of what is retold over?
He's basically saying that the story of Christianity is a story told.
Yes,
over 1,000 of years.
That's correct, because the story, if you look at, it's because I'm so tired. I've been working really long hours, but when you look at even going back to ancient Egyptian, the same, it's got the same story. And you was commenting that Rudy had said that the Book of the Dead has lots of commandments, and what is for me stands out is the fact that in the Bible it says that you should not sin. But in the Book of the Dead, it's I have not killed, I have not lied. So you living by a code where you're not doing things, not that you shouldn't be doing it, but hey ho, if I do, you know, it's a different concept. So, and that's millennia upon millennia old. And so what I'm saying is that it's always been there. There's always been there's something that is there already. And whoever takes it up, and when someone says there's more than one God. I call back to thou shalt have, well, see, my Bible upbringing, thou shalt have no other gods before me. When it says thou shalt have no other gods, some people will question, does that mean there are other gods? If there, it just says that he should be first.
Okay.
So that's what some people may say, but for me, I think that I don't know who was saying it before, it might have been you, that people give names and it's people, it's organized religion that makes people kill over certain things. It's organized religion. It is not the concept of a higher thing where we are supposed to live a certain way. It's that we are so unwilling to live a certain way because you know. So I don't. When someone says that you believe or you don't believe, it's not for me. It's not a belief. It's a knowledge. It is something that's in the core of me that I know.
Ruth, I'm so sorry. I'm going to need to go to Charlotte Johnson because we really do have to come to a close. We really do. And I've still got to go to Pastor Dawkins and Devon also, and Lindsay at some point. So let me hear what Charlotte has got to say. And Trevor, you can quickly jump back in a minute and we'll go to Devon and then Pastor Dawkins. Okay?
So I want to say 2 quick points. One is when I hear people say that they don't believe in God or they're not religious, they don't have faith, I think that's a form of faith in itself. So just to make that point.
Because religion is a way of life, isn't it?
Right, okay. So that's one. The other thing to say, thank you for this topic, Trevor, and thank your wife for this topic. Because I think it's given a platform for us to start to talk about these issues. And I want to put it in the context of we're in unprecedented times with COVID. Let's allow us to have these forums and these discussions. So the idea of doing part 2, part 3, or what, because I think there's so many different topics that could be teased out of this, that you can run a whole series with this. But I would like to say, to think about discussing this some more, to say, well, okay, we recognize that, it had Christianity or religion has been a form of oppression. What do we do now? How do we start to untangle that and empower those who have been oppressed rather? So I just wanted to leave that thought.
Okay. So Devon, thank you very much, Charlotte. And I do love the way that you are very concise. Trevor, you were trying to jump in. Were you
I was only just going to add one point. I was just going to say, history has shown that anyone in power can create a god with any attributes and characteristics that they desire. So, and that's all I wanted to say, really. It was just
okay. All right. Thank you very much. So there's more people coming onto Facebook, funny enough. I do want to say hello to Chrissy R. Williams, Enchanter Joseph, and if I've missed anyone on Facebook, I do apologize. We have heard from. I'm gonna quickly come to you, Devon. I'm gonna ask you to be concise, please. I can't hear you.
Right. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
One of the things I realize is that most people have never studied the Bible, including Christians. And a pastor actually confessed that to me, that once they get saved, they say that's it. So most people who call themselves Christians who don't actually study the Bible, they make an assumption the Bible is this moral guide. And yet still the Bible has got, God himself has killed more people and innocent animals and baby and all of that. The Bible is, by the stories and the things that God does in the Bible, is the most immoral book ever written. For example, the Noah story is one of the most immoral stories. God wiped out almost the entire human race, and it achieved nothing. Fortunate for us, we have a better moral than the God that the Bible preach about, because we wouldn't wipe out our children if they disobey us and then start over and make some new ones, and it achieved nothing at all. The Bible has scriptures in, for example, Leviticus, where it endorsed the slavery that is identical to the type of slavery that happened to Black people, and it endorsed that slavery, command the Israelites to go out and perform that slavery in Leviticus 25, verses 42 and 46. you got scriptures in the Bible that go something to the effect in Psalms 137:9. Happy shall he be that take it and dash it thy little one against the stones. And you say, when you see the amount of immorality where the Bible endorses rape, murder, you name it, the Bible endorses it. And we are surprised by the people who go around the world, say they're Christians and perpetrate all of these gruesome crimes against human beings. Because we have the false impression that the Bible is this wonderful word of God to do with these wonderful principles. And it's not.
Devon, we are coming to a close. And I'm going to move on, and I'm going to go to, one more time, I'm going to go to you, Lindsay, and I'm going to ask you, as an atheist, do you mind me calling you that? Because that's what I would put you in that bracket.
I guess so.
Yeah. As an atheist, has this conversation or this debate enlightened you in any way, shape, or form?
We should all be on a learning curve. I mean, there's so much to learn. I absolutely love these Thursday night discussions. There's been unanimous agreement that Christianity has oppressed and is still oppressing Black people. I still don't understand its purpose. What is the purpose of Christianity if it's oppressing Black people? I don't understand.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to come to you last but not least, Pastor Dawkins.
Christianity is not oppressing people. People are oppressing people.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is the bottom line. People are oppressing people. People are being wicked to people. I listened to Devon, and everything Devon said is exactly what I used to say. Exactly, to the word. I used to say Christians were brainwashed. Christians just follow the pastor. They have no intelligence. They're this, they're that. Everything that he said, I said. I have a bachelor's degree in divinity. So I spent 5 years in seminary studying the word of God. I understand the word of God in Hebrew and I understand the word of God in Greek. So I would like to consider myself a learned Christian who also happens to be Black, who also happens to stood on the Pan-Africanist platform. So there's two things I want to say. Number one, what Sister Charlotte said is true. If we have to agree on that Christianity was used, how do we move forward? That is the number one thing. How do we move forward from here? You know, there's no point in us throwing vitriol at each other if we do not move forward, because Christianity is here to stay. Black people are here to stay. So if we're gonna argue with each other, because some of the arguments can become divisive, which means that we then end up being divided and conquered, which is exactly what the enemy wants. We've got to find a way, a platform, a solution where we can do it. And in fact, everything that Trevor said, everything that you said, Devon, and what you said, Ruth, I could answer all of those questions scripturally and biblically. I can answer them all. It would take 3 weeks probably to go through them all and break it all down. We don't have that time. But I want us to just think to ourselves, there's tyranny in the world, there's oppression in the world, there's racism, sexism, ageism, there's all sorts of isms. We have to come together. Black Lives Matter. That's what we're talking about in here. And we have to find a way as a race of people where we can stand on a platform and free the tyranny that is upon our necks. That's what we've got to do.
Absolutely, Pastor Dawkins. Thank you very much. You see, the thing is that's kind of where I was trying to go with it. I'm not sure myself, because it's very difficult to know. We're in one big mess, really, aren't we? So that's where I was trying to go with it, in saying, you know, it doesn't really matter what we call God. I know what you said, Pastor Dawkins, and I understand that. But when I say this, I mean, it doesn't matter what we call God. We need to unite. And if you are calling God Allah, and I'm calling God God, and someone else is calling him Jehovah, but we can unite, and that doesn't get in the way of us uniting, then I don't see the problem. If you understand what I mean, in someone calling God Allah or God, or do you see what I mean? And that's really where I was trying to get to. I understand that, because you see, Pastor Dawkins, there are different languages, as you know, and different languages call him different things. And I'm guessing.
You want to know something really interesting?
Yeah.
When Moses had the encounter with God at the burning bush, and he says, I'm going to go back to Pharaoh and tell Pharaoh to say, God said, let my people go. Moses was saying to God, listen, I was raised in Pharaoh's house to become the next Pharaoh. So I know every single God that they worship. I know them by name because I was raised in Pharaoh's house. If I go to Pharaoh and say, God said, let my people go, he's going to ask me which God. God says, I am, which is not a name because God doesn't actually have a name. But that's a whole conversation.
Thank you
God
very
doesn't have a
much.
name. So when we
Thank you,
argue about
Pastor.
the name of God, what we're doing is we're pandering to the enemy to
And not
keep
only
us
that, are we
separated
not
and divided.
humanizing it
Absolutely.
like Ruth was saying earlier on. I really am going to come to a close, but I do have to just read this one out. Oh, by the way, Chrissy R. Williams is saying, yes, Pastor Kevin. And Rudy Liquid is saying, Christianity has been used and it is being used to suppress and divide and rule. Knowing this, Kevin, you confuse me. Okay, but I'm not going to get Kevin to answer that, Rudy, because we are coming to a close. I'm sorry, Pastor Dawkins. Right, so, once again, we have come together, all different types of people, and we've discussed subjects that are usually very heated, and sometimes people even do name calling in the middle of them, but we've done it respectably, and I'm hoping that it's managed to in some way educate everyone in listen to everyone's perspectives. And on that note, I'm going to say a good evening to everybody. We're going to wave goodbye and we're going to see you next week, Thursday. I hope you enjoyed the show. Next week, we are going to be talking about andropause and menopause. And our co-host next week should be Mikey Coos. And it should be interesting and a fun one, actually, because for one, I can tell you, I believe I traumatized Lindsay this week with that. Do you want to? I'm going to hand that over to Lindsay, actually.
Sam introduced me to the concept of andropause. Andropause, I am led to believe, is the male equivalent of menopause. And Sam has said that a lot of very distressing things are about to happen to me. So
Well, I did say you may never experience it.
I sincerely hope not.
Anyway, that's for next week. And guys, I'm going to go to the ads and we will see you next week. Thank you very much. Everyone on the panel, please stay where you are. I'll see you after the break. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night. The fact is, there really is only one race, isn't it?
We live in a world that has many races. We can't get away from that.
Because you can see what they're doing for the people who came here from the Caribbean and built this country up to what it is today. They're sending them home.
When they want to keep any information on you, they are able to keep it. When they want to lose it, they can lose it in a heartbeat if it suits their purposes.
As a white mother of a black child, I have to, because I find it hard trying to raise a black man in this society.
I find it an honour. But do you know what I have, unfortunately, and I'm ashamed of it. I have one over you because my voice is louder than yours when I'm speaking to white people. When I'm speaking to white people about the way that they're discriminating against my son because of his colour.
Hi, my name's Claudette and I make jewellery for Jamela Gems. I make jewellery using semi-precious stones and sterling silver. You can find Jamela Gems on Facebook, Etsy and Twitter. Come and look me up. Jamela Gems. I make jewellery with your well-being in mind.
Hi, my name's Beverly Skeet, and guess what? I've been making good use of the lockdown time. I've made an album, it's called Liberty, And this is the first single from it, Can't Do Right for Doing Wrong. It's been a long time coming. And I've been looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. It'll be released on the 31st of August. I hope you like it. Take care. Bye. Be safe.
Lead singers from the West End stage.
I got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I got the
Outstanding voices and exceptional choreography.
Stop in the name of love before you break my heart. Stop in the name of love. Ain't no stopping us now.
Mo Soul Sensation.
Moving, grooving, moving, grooving.
Book now. The mind-blowing Mo Soul Sensation.